All right. Welcome to the Rise Up Podcast. I'm your host, Jonah Mitchell. On this show, I do my best to help you get out of your own way, rise up to your potential, and ultimately accomplish the goals that you want, and hopefully make it a little bit easier than it has for you in the past. So, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. If you keep up with my podcast regularly, I didn't post anything last week because it's been a whirlwind on my end of things. Excuse me. And if you want to hear some of the life updates that I have going on, stick around to the end, and I'll keep you informed there. But we are going to be talking about one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to your health and your well-being, and it is stress. How it is slowing or killing your progress, and how to be better at identifying and then making a much more aligned decision when it comes to the stressors that you deal with your life. Because the most important thing I need people to understand when it comes to dealing with stress is that we can't control it. We cannot control all of the stressors in our life. And a lot of times, because of the stresses we deal with, we ultimately make decisions that don't always align with how we want to feel and where we want to be with our health and our well-being. So, our goal is to learn how to identify stress, how to identify our responses to stressors and how it's impacting our health, and then learn to make more aligned decisions, more ideal decisions that will ultimately help you stay on the path and not feel like you're failing yourself. But really, I really just want to start by first helping you understand stress. Stress is such a broad term, so I want to give you like some sort of tangible thing to hold on to for the duration of this episode. Essentially, stress is a state of discomfort caused by a difficult situation, environment, or whatever, right? We all know what stress technically is, but there's multiple categories of stress that our bodies and our minds can go through, and our body will interpret all stressors the same way. It is a life and death scenario. Our minds are very sophisticated. Living in 2024, our body is not. Our body interprets very simple things like, oh, I'm going to be late. I'm stressed about being late, as a holy crap, you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. All right. So we logically know it's not that serious. Our body doesn't, because the stress response, well, everything our body does essentially is sending signals to certain receptors, certain receptors in our body that says, hey, produce this hormone. Hey, turn off this hormone. Hey, adapt to this situation. So when stress is high, our fight or flight responses turn on, and essentially that's what our body starts to focus on, is that fight or flight survival mechanism, because our body only cares about survival, reproduction. That's really it. Doesn't care about your weight loss goals, doesn't care about anything else that you logically or emotionally care about. Your body's number one job is to keep you alive in hopes that you can reproduce and keep your lineage going. Like, that's the basic core function of our biology, right? We as humans get to evolve beyond that and do other things that are not just the typical animal kingdom: survive, reproduce, and die. So, but our biology still operates under that. So it's not like when we deal with stress and people like make decisions like they stress eat, they stress drink, or they do it, whatever they have practiced for a long time. Their body's trying to survive through a mechanism that they have practiced in certain environments, certain scenarios, and so on. So the multiple types of stressors, there's physical stressors, there's emotional stressors, there's mental stressors. The easier ones to really identify in this, and now we understand, or hopefully you understand, these stressors. When our body experiences these stresses, it wants to survive, it wants to make it through that stressor to the best of its ability, and eventually it will hopefully adapt. But stress, and that, before I go down that rabbit hole, but cannot our body does not want to always feel stress. It wants to feel any form of relief. So looking at those behaviors that we can tend to do when we're stressed, that's your body's way, or its learned way of dealing and coping with stress. And a lot of times those ways ultimately make it harder to accomplish our health and weight loss goals. Okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Your body is a lot of it feels like our body is fighting against us in these scenarios, but we first need to become aware of these things, become aware of these stressors that impact our decisions. Once we become aware, then we get to understand, oh, it's not me truly self-sabotaging. It's not me being an asshole to myself. It is my body's current coping mechanism. And I need to learn how to change my behavior, change my actions to the stressors that I can't control. Essentially, the three parts of the process: become aware, understand that it's not you, it's not like you trying to make this process harder. Then you take different action to create a more sustainable relationship with yourself and routine for your ultimate goals. All right. So now, with that in mind, understanding the three different categories let's get more specific about what types of stressors your body experiences so that you can be better at identifying them and then identifying the patterns that you have. So there's physical stressors, right? Physical stressor can go under many different kind of guises, but like an injury is a physical stressor. Lack of mobility or flexibility is a stressor. Lack of strength can be a stressor. um, then we can go deeper into nutritional, which can still be physical. Overeating is a stress. Undereating is a stress. Nutrient deficiencies are stressors, right? So there's a lot of ways your body can be experiencing stress. And this is where it can feel like the ball starts to roll away against them. And I'm not trying to say like you have to be like a guru and just become like this meditative person that just can never experience stress, right? Stress is necessary. Stress is super important. Without stress, we couldn't change and adapt our body. If you want to lose weight, you need to provide a stress of you no longer consume as many calories as you used to. And that will then eventually adapt to the weight loss response that most people want. But that stressor of consuming less calories can be another like figurative weight on all the other stressors that we deal with. And because our body wants to survive stressors, it will naturally limit the ones that it feels are unnecessary or not as important. So this is why sticking with diets and workout routines can be difficult, because our body's trying to survive, mitigate, and keep moving forward in its current state, because our body ultimately doesn't like to change. It likes to find a set point. It likes to stay there, right? So because there's all these stressors, I just listed the physical stressors before, your body doesn't want to deal with all of them. Mainly, especially if all the current mechanisms that we have, our current responses or current habits that we have, it's gotten used to. Changing and rewiring that pattern in our brain is going to take time. And if we don't understand, like, those physical stressors are impacting us, well, now if we don't see the change that we think we should, now this could transfer into the mental or emotional stressors that we deal with: the lack of patience, the frustration, the guilt, the shame that makes us ultimately even more uncomfortable. Then we turn even more into coping mechanisms that are possibly not ideal to our goals. And this is where the self-sabotaging cycle never really ends, because of the physical stressors that our body are under in multiple ways that we may not be aware of. And by the time I'm done with the explanation, I promise you I'll give you all the mechanisms to reduce stress so that ultimately it can adapt to the stress that you want it to. But if we have a bunch of physical stresses, and then we have unmet expectations that lead to frustration, guilt, shame, or anything like that, and we have patterns that like leads to more calories consumed than we ideally would want, be it from food, be it from alcohol or any other drink, or be it from lack of activity, like I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted, I can't move my body, or I won't move my body, I just can't do that right now. Like, all those things are impacted. So now, again, the cycle continues to perpetuate the current state that we're in, where people feel like they're stuck. Like, no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, they don't see change. But the goal, understanding all these types of stressors and your reactions to these stressors, and understanding, hey, you're not broken. Yes, this cycle sucks, and it's not fun to feel disappointed or shame or guilty or anything along those lines. If you're not seeing the change that you want, you are not fulfilling the fundamental thing that has to happen. You need to be consistent in a calorie deficit to see weight loss or whatever your goal is. And if you're having a hard time with the consistency, meaning like you're not seeing that consistent result, then we need to evaluate how you're handling the stresses in your life. And this is what mostly gets in the way of people's sustainability, like the stressors that they oftentimes can't control, but they think they should be able to control. And then they try in their bodies and their minds coping mechanisms, they're ultimately stacked against you. So a lot of times, like when I'm working with people, I tell them we need to get better at this response first. Because no matter, I can restrict your food, I can tell you to run every single day, I can tell you to make the time. But if that just adds more stress into already an already stressed person's stressful life, how many times can you say stress in 10 seconds? It's ultimately eventually there's going to be resentment, there's going to be frustration, there's going to be there's going to be pushback between me and the client, and then they're just going to it's not going to end well. It's ultimately going to end the same way it always does. No progress or very little progress, frustration, guilt, and I'm just going back to what I usually do because it's easier to stay uncomfortable in my current state than it is to be uncomfortable changing. Okay? So, all that being said, this is understanding how you react to your stress is super important. And what I like to tell people is let's feel better first. Let's take the stressors that we have, identify the ones that we can control and the ones that we can't, right? What are the stressors that we can't control? Work, family, bills, shit like that. Like we can't control those. Like those are the ones that are going to be there regardless of what we have going on. So we can't run away or avoid those things. But if those things are really stressful and we always have to have a glass of wine after work, or we have to every chance we get we're snacking because of the stress that we're dealing from work, like those, we can start dealing with those reactions to those stressors. The stresses that we can control, right? The stuff that's in our immediate control, lack of preparation, um, um, or lack of preparation to certain stressors that we can, like our emotional reactions to stresses, we can control them, even though it may not feel like it. It's going to take practice, but sometimes something small, like our effort, we can control that. There's stress that happens in our life that we can't control, but we can control the effort that we provide. And when we realize that something small is better than nothing at all, like the effort that we do in those situations of the stressors that we have to deal with on a regular basis, when we show up to the best of our ability, we are moving the needle closer to improving our reactions, improving our consistency, and ultimately leading us to the goal that we want and being able to sustain it no matter what stress is in our life. But if we do not get comfortable saying, I can't control the main stressors, but I can control my effort, even to the smallest ability, and accepting that even if it's not immediate change, it's still progress, you are going to guarantee that you will see success. Because the stress of being on a diet, being and consuming less calories and moving more and burning more calories, if you're not doing that within the means of the uncontrolled stressors in your life, your schedule, your children, whatever it is, no matter what you do, no matter how much success you accomplish, it is highly likely that you will revert back to where you are now. So we need to learn that I can't control this one, but I can control how I respond. And I'm going to go on a 5-minute walk. No matter what's going on, I can carve out at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes for myself. Even if it's not a walk, maybe it's just 5 minutes to you, like locking yourself in a bathroom, right? Or something I like to have, I like to simplify, have people focus on what's one thing with their diet that they can add into this week. Can they add one vegetable in their day to day? Can they add one source of protein in their day to day? Can they add one fruit into their day to day? The amount of people that I tell when they start work with me, I just need you to add one color into your diet on a regular basis, and they're like, "That's it, that's it." Because the goal is to take those things that we can't control in our life, and instead of looking at everything that we lack or we can't control and just keep our mind in that state, we start training our mind to think, what can I do? What in my current state can I accomplish? And when we start getting in that what I can do mentality, no matter what stress is going on, if it's a simple thing like add one color, well then, and we accomplish that over and over again, our mind's gonna be like, oh, what else can I do? And then it's going to be on that gradual process of adding more color, adding more movement into your day-to-day, actively reducing certain stressors in your life, improving recovery aspects of your life. So the stress that you deal with, your body adapts, or your body recovers from that stress more often, more frequently. You're getting more quality food in your diet. You're getting more consistent movement in your day-to-day. Your body naturally reduces a lot of the excessive stress that it's dealing with, and then starts actively progressing towards the goal that you want, because you're learning to stop letting the non-controllables dictate the controllables. The controllables, the effort, and being okay and accepting that it may not look the way that you think it's supposed to look. It might need to be a smaller step than you are willing to accept. But you have to, or then you're willing to acknowledge, right? You need to acknowledge that something small is better than nothing at all, because when you learn to do something, your something can get better, and your something can turn into ideal with practice. But people practice doing things over and over and over again when they're stressed or emotional, and they constantly deprive their body of nutrients that would help them improve or help them feel better in their circumstances. And then the stresses just get worse, and they practice that on repeat over and over and over. So when we're aware, when we understand, and then when we start to take consistent action, this is where you start to feel better. This is where you take back control, and you limit the excessive stress through your effort. And this is what then builds momentum. Momentum will build belief in yourself, and in that frame of mind where, what can I do? Even though I can't control everything, I can control something, right? And then you'll find you'll be able to deal and thrive in the stress that you can't control a lot more consistently, without as many hiccups, because of this new mentality, this new awareness. So all this broad stuff, right? Well, I hope this is making sense. Like understanding what stress is, our response to stress, why stress is necessary, and how stress has been impacting your decisions. Now we need to understand there's certain things that we can't control in our lives. We can control our effort, and we accept that something small is better than nothing at all, and that something can get better. Something will get better. We will inevitably guarantee that we will get to our results, and we will stop letting stress always dictate or kill our progress, right? We can't get rid of stress. Stress is necessary. If we got rid of stress, if we got rid of the ability of stress in general, well, then we wouldn't be able to adapt to certain situations. Our body wouldn't adapt to a calorie deficit. It would just stay the same regardless. So now I like to categorize, hey, there's multiple ways to help start reducing stress, to help you start feeling better first. And that's little measures you can use instead of just a scale, instead of just physical change, right? Because like I've been using this analogy a lot. Like, people want to see the scale go down consistently. They want to know that their report card of what they're currently doing is leading them in the right direction. But if we look at, like, we'll start with the three broad categories, which is nutrition quality, fitness quality, and feeling good, like dealing with stress. Like, those are like kind of the big generic categories. If we were to give them a grade, like if you were to give your nutrition quality a D, fitness an F, and your ability to deal with stress a D minus, and you want the scale to be a report card, you have a report card. If it's not going in the way that you want to, your report card is probably going to be the average of those categories, and you have your answer. What you're currently doing is not ideal for the goals that you want. Now, this does not mean eat as little as possible, move extra, a hell of a lot more, because we want to know what we can do in the circumstances we want to know what we manageably can do in our current circumstances. Anyone can do something for a short period of time. This is why motivation kicks up, and everyone's like, I can do this forever. If I always feel like this, I will be unstoppable. But the stressors that we can't control will always end up winning. And our body will be like, I am no longer motivated. I don't really want to make those meals again. I don't really want to go to the gym every day again. It doesn't matter that much. I'll just stay the same, because motivation gets you started, but we need to use that motivation to develop habits that will keep you going keep you going alongside the stress that you will deal with. All right. So yes, Even though your nutrition quality, your fitness quality, and your stress capabilities are low, that does not mean we need to go from a D to an A automatically, right? We could just go from a D to a C, and that's progress, right? But we need to remember, this can't be a transactional relationship, meaning just because I did more, I should see more improvement. It will take time. If you really want to accomplish your goal, right? We want to make sure that we're willing to accept that it may take longer than we want it to. There are people out there that can see results in a short amount of time, but those people are not typically parents with full-time jobs. Like, a lot of times those people, like, well, that's, don't get me wrong, there are parents, people with full-time jobs that can find success and sustain it, but usually it's the parents, it's the people who are caregivers who always are putting themselves last, that have a hard time accepting they may be the type of person that it will take longer, right? And that's okay. That's okay too. So I'm gonna go down so many rabbit holes if I like. This is why I like talking about it, but I don't want to go too all over the place with this. But essentially, I want you to understand and accept it's not a bad thing if it takes you a little bit longer, if there's more things on your plate. It's not a bad thing that you can't commit everything in your life to accomplishing your goal, but you can commit something. If you commit something to your goal, you will accomplish more than you ever, if you ever really believe. Because most people, the biggest problem people have is they just stop fucking trying. Let's stop stopping and just keep going. As long as we keep chipping away, eventually we will make purchase, we will find where we want to be, and we will be much more equipped to stay there. All right. So, all that being said, those three categories, those broad categories. Now, I like breaking down those categories even more into five categories that we can improve, that we can track and use as a different source of progress tracking instead of just a scale. And if we improve these five categories and we get them to a point where we're like, yeah, we're averaging a B in almost all of these categories, maybe even an A, right? But we pick one at a time, one or two at a time, to improve slowly but surely. And then we can start, once those five categories are in like the BA range, then we can start tracking and measuring the actual tangibles into the overall scale grade, right? If we want to see weight loss, right, we need the categories, the things that are going to help influence the scale to be in a much better, much more ideal and sustainable manner. First, because one, you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. Two, you're going to stop wanting to find reasons to give up. And three, you're going to have much more, you're going to have way more other forms of progress to remind yourself you're still on the right path. And then the scale is going to be the cherry on top, because you're doing so much more than you thought you could, because you put all these pieces into practice. So if you listen to me for a long time, you've heard these categories before, but just as I always say, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. All right. So I feel like I'm talking really fast today. I have a lot to say about this, and I want to get it out there before I get busy again. So the first category, the one I think is probably the easiest one, is water. Right, drinking a little bit more water in your day to day, getting a half gallon to a gallon of water on a regular basis helps with nutrient distribution, helps with nutrient distribution, increased electrolyte production throughout your brain, throughout your muscles, so you'll genuinely start feeling better. Helps with digestion, right? When you have more water in your system, it helps flush out the stuff that your body has created into waste. And many people would stop dealing with constipation or the run or diarrhea if they had a little bit more water in their body to help kind of collect and push and remove the waste from our system. So easy, simple way, or I believe not, it's not easy for everybody, but can be one of the easier ways to start improving. So if you're not between a half gallon to a gallon, don't stress. Don't start chugging a gallon of water every day. Understand where you're currently at and work your way up from there. Um, Daily activity, right? Moving your body more often, right? Many people work sedentary desk jobs. If you can work your way up to get between 6 to 10,000 steps on a regular basis, this is one of the this is or our daily activity is the second highest form of our second highest way our body burns calories, right? The first highest way is just living. The second highest is not through your physical workouts, it's the daily movement you have on a regular basis. So if you have a sedentary job, you only get about 3,000 steps. You don't need to jump to 6 to 10. Work your way up there, and by like adding 2 to 500 every week. Keep it simple, keep it manageable, and progress yourself up. Right? We want these things to get better, and we want to see if we make manageable, tangible goals, right? Your brain's going to be, what can I do? Instead of, oh, what do I have to do? Right? I give these targets to help you track your progress of where you're at and what you can work yourself up to. And eventually, when you just start with smaller, more manageable goals of adding 2 to 500 steps, that's like a 5 to 15-minute walk into your day, or just extra movement around your house, around the office, whatever you're doing. You're going to naturally increase your calorie burn. You're going to actually increase your activity. You're going to feel a lot better over time. All right. Number three, food quality. If we're low in protein, low in fiber, low in vitamins and minerals, our our body doesn't have the building blocks to ultimately take care or rebuild, repair, and actually feel like itself. It's going to struggle producing hormones. It's going to struggle building muscle. It's going to retaining muscle as well. And your body's going to feel like it's always running a little bit above E. Not quite on E, but like it's chugging along. But we want to provide more high quality, meaning just higher protein, higher vitamins, higher minerals. And so it has more building blocks to operate and feel like itself again. Because our body, as we age, it like the support that it needs just gets higher and higher, because it no longer can just operate off of like that's the main difference why like we feel like as we get older our metabolism slows down or stuff like that. Well, our body, like, we can be super underfed or nutrient deficient as kids, and we won't feel the effects as much because we still have stem cells. Our body's capability to deal with stress is a lot higher. But as we get older, our body's ability to deal with stress gets less and less and less. And that's where the miles can feel like they can add up. So if we switch that and just focus on improving food quality by trying to add a color into as many meals as possible, anywhere from 2 to 4. And I mean color as in protein or fruit or vegetable. Adding a protein, getting between 3 and 4 servings of protein on a regular basis. This includes protein shakes. So if you add one protein shake, boom, you only had to get 2 or 3 full whole food servings. And when you add those building blocks, we're not even getting to the point where I need you counting calories. This is just portion sizes. If you can improve those things, you're going to start feeling better. And when you consume more whole foods like this, you're probably going to reduce your calorie consumption without having to put pressure on the calories. All right. So, super simple category that I like to go over. And usually you don't have to do them all. You can pick protein, you can pick color, you can pick, and you can start there and then work your way up eventually. Um, Four, we already kind of started talking about it, but um, actually, I guess it's 4 categories, because I combined the difficult two, so 4 instead of 5. But sleep and stress management. All right, so these two are the most difficult because a lot of us have coping mechanisms with stress already that we've practiced over and over again, and if our stress is high, usually our sleep isn't that great. Like, we're scrolling on the internet, like in bed, and we'll go to have a hard time falling asleep, have a hard time staying asleep, or we have an easy time falling asleep, but a hard time staying asleep. Either way, if you notice those things, doing what you can to help your body wind down at the end of the day, reducing screen time, doing something more relaxing in bed, like reading, talking to your spouse, or journaling, brain dumping, I like to call, kind of just get everything out of your head before you go to bed. Just get your brain and your body in a place to just leave everything that it's nervous about, that it's worried about, there at the end of the day, right? And just start with something simple. It doesn't have to be you don't have to write dear diary today. This was no. It's just like, write a list, like sticky notes. I fucking love sticky notes. It's like my brain is sticky notes. It's just little post-it notes all over the place. But you just write down, what'd you get done today, right? Or what do you have to get done tomorrow, right? What are you stressed about? What are you nervous about? Get it out of your head. Because if we can stop, our brain is like an echo chamber. If we keep it up there, it will attach to everything that will what's the term, that will confirm the bias, right? But if we get it out, we can look at it objectively. We can look at it without emotion and say, oh, okay, all right, I'll get that done. I'll get that done. Stop worrying about it as much, right? Or there's other ways to deal with stress, like finding ways to move your body a little bit more, through yoga, through exercise, through strength training. There's so many things you can do in order to get this process to help your body recover, and then help your body wind down, getting anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, ideally 7, but hey, let's just work on getting 6 consistently. And overall, these things will ultimately help you feel a hell of a lot better. I went through this really, really fast though. So listen to this maybe once or 2 more times. Write down, like, what can you manageably do right now? and start helping reduce the stress that your body's been under. Take these categories, pick one that you feel like you can start doing right now, increase that overall grade. Don't increase it with the expectation, the transactional expectation of, I drink more water, where's my weight loss? It's like, no, I'm drinking more water to help my body feel better. I'm improving my food quality to help me feel better, and ultimately reduce the overall calorie consumption that will eventually lead to weight loss. I'm moving my body more throughout the day so that I can increase my caloric burn, get more sunlight, and help my body deal with the stress and stop sitting down all day long. I'm helping my body wind down at the end of the day to get better sleep, to reduce cortisol production, to improve hormonal and cell health regeneration, so I feel more like myself again. And when my body feels like myself again, anything that I wanted to do can now be a little bit more manageable, because now my body's only got one major stress to adapt to. That's the calorie deficit that I'm trying to provide. And it's not impossible to lose weight because of stress. But if we have shit tons of stress all the time, our body can feel like it could just take a little bit longer than it could be a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. So hope this made sense. Oh, and I forgot to even mention, happy May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. After I'm done today, I'm gonna go watch some Star Wars stuff because I'm a nerd. But yeah, so anyway, hope this made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help however I can. Obviously, I love talking about this stuff. I probably should do this one more time because I talk way too fast, and I hope you're able to absorb some of this information, or at least just glean something that will help move you forward in the right direction. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me on social media or send me an email if you have any specific questions. I'm happy to do my best to help you with whatever you need in regards to this or any other health questions that you may have. And yeah, and quick life update. I'll try to keep this short because I wanted this episode to be relatively short, but I talk too damn much. Yes, last week has been nuts. Just working on becoming a firefighter. Yesterday, I had a ride along at a local department that lives next to my house, and I had a lot of applications to fill out for certain fire department certifications to get done. So I'm just like running around with a chicken with his head cut off as usual. So things are going well though. I'm enjoying the process. I'm getting a lot more experience talking to a lot of people in the fire service, and it's absolutely exciting. Definitely a challenge. I've seen some cool stuff on ride along calls. I've seen some hard things on ride along calls. So it's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, but it's definitely, I'm glad I'm on this path. I'm glad I'm on this journey, and ultimately everything happens for a reason. And I'm still here to provide help for you as much as I can, and still working to accomplish something that I think is more aligned for me as a career. And when I am a firefighter, this stuff can get even more because I can start doing this stuff even more. Maybe even break this up and put this on social media for once, because I mean, once I'm in the fire academy, it's like a full 9 to 5. After fire academy, the schedule is a little bit more lax, but I digress. I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself, but ultimately, that's where I'm at. Super busy as always, and but it's fun. I'm excited. I'm happy. And yeah, so if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode, thank you so much. Share it with one person if you think that they would find it helpful. I'm done rambling at you. I hope you have an awesome day, and see you on the next one.